Son of a Covet. Short story written by Sid Webster Beecham and the late George Beecham. The movie Roman is based on this story. Part 1. Loud Advice. Look, Pastor, I hear what you're saying, but you don't understand my situation. I think it's best that you mind your business. Roman Knox sat forward in his chair, putting emphasis on his defiance. He leaned in as he spoke, as if he were going to stand up, but didn't. While teetering on the edge of the chair, he waited for Pastor Stiles to say something, but instead, the pastor just stared at him and finally let out an audible sigh. You're making a big mistake, Roman. You know I've counseled many people, thousands actually. You're making a mistake, and I think you know it deep down, but you're letting your emotions cloud your thinking. My marriage has been over. My fiance? You have the nerve to consider yourself engaged while still married to your wife? Just stop. Please stop and think about what you're doing. I agree that you need to get divorced, but you need to wait until after you're divorced before jumping into another relationship. You need a period to regroup, settle down with yourself, and start focusing on God and pray. Get involved in some ministries and take your mind off of this obsession to be in a relationship. Do some self-reflection, and then, after some time has passed, at least a year, then think about dating. Son of a Covet, Part 2, Rationalizing. Roman looked at his watch before the pastor did this time and stood up even though there was still almost 15 more minutes to go for the appointment. You don't know what you're talking about, Roman said as he headed for the door. I've got somewhere to go, so, bye. And out the door he went and calmly walked out the church, greeting people as he made his way to his car. As he drove out of the parking lot, he began to think about his conversation with Pastor Stiles and began mumbling out loud. He don't know what he's talking about. My marriage has been over. She knows it. So technically, I have waited before getting into another relationship. As far as I'm concerned, my marriage has been over long before I met Nisha. Son of a Covet, Part 3, Intrusion. Roman had turned left out of the parking lot without even thinking about it, as if he were heading toward his wife's home. He had been referring to it as his wife's home once he began spending nights with Nisha more frequently. It was maybe 3 or 4 months after meeting Nisha that he stopped sleeping at his home where his wife lives altogether. So he continued on driving in that direction, deciding that he may as well stop by there and pick up a few things to bring to Nisha's, where he really lives. What are you doing here? Ethel shouted in a startled voice as Roman came through the door. She had been meaning to change the locks and made a mental note to do that first thing the next day. Don't be coming in here like that. You need to ring the doorbell or call first. This is still my house. I need to pick up some things. Stop tripping. What are you doing here anyway? she asked, sounding very annoyed. I met with Pastor Stiles. He wanted to meet with me after you showed him that picture. I done told you about putting our business out in the street. Son of a Covet, Part 4. Enough. I didn't put our business in the street. I spoke to the pastor like I should have done long ago. I just don't understand you. What did I do that was so wrong that we can't recover? You have a son here. Leave him out of this. That's your son. I tried to be a father to him, but you had a problem with that. And on top of that, you started talking to me like you talked to your son, yelling at me and carrying on like I'm your child. No, I've had enough of that. I was going to file for divorce before, months ago. But when Mom got sick, everything went on hold. Now that she's gone, I'm moving forward with my plans. Roman, please, can't we sit down and talk about this? You're not thinking straight with all you've been through with your mother. No, I'm done talking. He went into their bedroom and snatched the closet door open to get his suit and a few other things. Then he headed toward the door without bothering to look at her, nor did he bother to say goodbye as he walked out mumbling about how he needs to put her out and change the locks. Son of a Covet, Part 5, Disturbing Dream. When he arrived at Nisha's house, he sat in his car in the driveway and began to think about his meeting with Pastor Stiles. He put his head back and huffed out a deep exhale and drifted off to sleep. It was a steamy, very warm day. The kind of day that made everyone and everything feel damp inside and outside of the mansion. Roman had risen earlier than usual this morning, judging by the darkness with a hint of light edging the lower horizon. Another damp, humid day, he mumbled as he placed his feet on the cool floor and braced himself to stand his achy body upright. He grunted as he stood up and stretched his arms to the ceiling. Thank you, Lord, for allowing me another day here. I'm asking for your patience and understanding to help me do a good job for Massa Aiken, and bless he and family too, and bless my children too. Roman went through his morning ritual of washing up and getting dressed in his butler's uniform and made his way upstairs into the kitchen to eat his breakfast before standing at his post in the front foyer of the house as the house greeter and assistant to their owner, Master Aiken. Why you go and tell Sally you ain't marrying her? She done had 3 young chillins. Hush up, woman, and get me my breakfast. I done told you and Sally too. Don't make no sense to go through marrying as no slave. I know Master Aiken might probably accept it, but what good it do? She got chillins by he and me. And anyway, I done told y'all I have a wife. You ain't never gonna see her again, and you knows it. She sold many years ago, and your child too. Portia fixed Roman's plate, looking frustrated, and had no idea that Roman had his eyes on another woman at the plantation. This new girl came to their home after Master Aiken's wife's sister moved in with them. Roman had grown tired of Sally even before this new girl, Tabby, arrived. He was tired of her nagging ways and always nagging him about marrying her, and got others on his back about it too. He had no intention on marrying Sally, and now secretly, Tabby has caught hold of his heart. Roman snapped his head forward, eyes wide open as if something startled him. He looked around and realized he was sitting in his car. Feeling dazed, he rubbed his eyes, shook his head, and then, while squinting his eyes in wonderment, reflected on the dream he had just had. Son of a Covet, Part 6. Annoyed. So vivid and annoying was the thought of him being a slave, a house slave at that. He decided that it was just a dream and went into the house where Nisha was cooking dinner. "Hey babe, where you been? I called you, but you didn't answer," she said as she was taking the chicken out of the oven. "I told you I had a meeting with Pastor Stiles after work." "Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot. How'd that go?" "He really didn't have anything to say." "Really? Then why did he ask to have a meeting with you?" Nisha asked as she followed Roman out of the kitchen because she could see he wasn't interested in discussing it with her. "Look, I'm going to probably take off work one day next week to turn in the paperwork for my divorce." "I thought you did that already," Nisha said as she watched him move around their bedroom, hanging his clothes up that he had brought in with him. Roman didn't bother to answer her, but continued to hang his clothes in the closet and then started changing his clothes to get comfortable before dinner, as was his usual routine after work. Nisha stood there looking at him for a while, realizing that he had no intention on answering her. She turned and left the room, shaking her head. Roman felt some relief after she walked out because he felt himself getting angry by her questioning. He was on the verge of telling her to get out of his face and leave him alone, but she left before he got to that point. "Roman, dinner is ready if you want to eat. I'm leaving for choir rehearsal." And out the door she went. She was annoyed with Roman and the way he kept so closed off to her. Son of a Covet, Part 7. More Rationalizing. Nisha believes he loves her, but she was shocked that he had not filed for divorce yet. Rumors are all over the church about them, and she is worried that she could be asked to step down from participating in the choir for being involved with a married man whose wife is also a member of their church. How did I let myself get into this predicament? Everyone can see that she wasn't right for him anyway, so they shouldn't blame me. He came after me. I didn't go after him. They've been separated for months. The divorce is just a formality. Nisha's mind was racing as she drove to the church. The car seemed to be on autopilot as she pulled into the parking lot and parked because she was so deep in her thoughts she didn't remember driving there. Son of a Covet, Part 8. Call from Dad. Meanwhile, Roman fixed his plate and sat down at the table to eat. He couldn't seem to get Pastor Styles' words out of his head. Although he had no desire to return to Ethel, he began to wonder how he ended up living with Nisha. Just as he put his first forkful of food in his mouth, did his phone ring. "Hello, son. How you doing?" "Hi, Dad. I'm fine. What's going on?" "Oh, nothing much. I just called to see how you're doing. I haven't heard from you in a couple of weeks." "I'm doing fine, Dad. I've been meaning to stop by to see you, but I've been real busy." I got a call from your wife, Ethel. Ethel called me a couple of days ago. Son, your wife still loves you, and she wants you to go back to your home." "I can't believe she called you," Roman shouted. "Look, Dad, I'm done with her, and there ain't nothing for us to talk about. I'm getting married soon as I get divorced from Ethel." Silence. "Hello? You still there, Dad?" "Yeah, I'm still here," he said solemnly. Son of a Covet, Part 9, Hard-Headed. "Son, I was really hoping you'd be able to settle down. I guess I haven't been a real good example in your life. Your mother and I struggled in our relationship once she learned that I had been married before I married her. I should have been honest with her about it, but my first wife had run out on me, and I had no idea whether she was dead or alive as years went on. Still don't. It has nothing to do with you, Dad. I made a mistake marrying Ethel. She already had a teenage son, and I tried to be a father to him, but she wouldn't let me. And I ain't living with no grown teenager who doesn't respect his parents. She yells at me and nagging me like I'm her son. I'm done with that. And it has nothing to do with you or how I was raised." "Okay, son. I'm going to continue to pray for you. I hope you wait and think before you go and marry that woman you're staying with. At least wait for a while. You sound like Pastor Styles." "Well, if he told you to wait, he told you right. I have to go, but I will talk to you soon." Roman hung up the phone, and while eating, his mother's voice crept into his thoughts. "Don't be so hard-headed, Roman," he heard her say. Son of a Covet, Part 10, Lineage. Roman finished eating his dinner and then went into the living room and reclined in his chair to watch TV for a while. He was bothered and perplexed by all that had transpired in this one evening. I'm Roman the Third. My father is Roman the Second. What was that dream about? I wonder how far back our lineage goes with Romans in our bloodline. Am I living out some kind of generational curse? Agitated, he got up to get his laptop and decided to start poking around Ancestry.com to continue searching for information about his family, most specifically his father's side. He had questioned his father from time to time about his family, but his father would become irritated and tell him there was no good reason to be digging up old ghosts of the past. His father's reaction only fueled Roman's curiosity, and he became even more motivated to learn about his family's past. Son of a Covet, Part 11. Something Amiss. He was just jotting down a few names he planned to explore further from a census record he found when the door opened. "Hey, babe," Nisha said as she hung up her coat and walked through the kitchen, seeing Roman's plate still on the table. "You finished eating?" "Yeah." "Well, you could have washed the dishes. There's only a few. I thought we agreed that nights when I have to go out, you will clean the kitchen." "I never agreed to that." Nisha just looked at him as he continued to focus on his computer. Roman didn't even bother to look up at her when she spoke. She turned and walked into the kitchen to clean up, deciding that it wasn't a good time to push the issue. Then she went into her bedroom and decided to watch TV, and after a while, she decided she wanted to snuggle up with Roman and clear the air. It had felt a little tense in the apartment ever since he came home. Son of a Covet, Part 12. Sneaky Peek. Nisha slipped on a sexy nightie and walked into the living room to get him, only to find him asleep in his chair with the laptop still on his lap. She quietly walked up behind him and looked over his shoulder to see what was on the screen, but it was dark, in sleep mode already. She glanced down at his notes and saw a few names, some female, and she wondered what that was about. Then she noticed his cell phone sitting next to the note, and she wanted to pick it up, but thought about the fact that he probably had it passcode protected. "Hey, what are you doing?" Roman suddenly woke up startled and almost knocked his laptop onto the floor. "Nothing. I was coming to get you so you can come to bed." And she swept her hands down over his shoulders, but he leaned forward and got up. Son of a Covet, Part 13. Nagging Thoughts. Roman looked at her in her sexy nightie and forgot what he had been doing. He followed her into the bedroom as if in a trance. She pulled him close, kissing him as she helped him slide out of his clothes, and they fell into a wild ride of phenomenal love-making ecstasy. When Roman came to, it was morning, but earlier than he needed to get up for work. He laid there for a few minutes thinking about what he was doing with his life. He was angry that Pastor Stiles' words had somehow penetrated his mind because he kept thinking about what he said. He looked over at Nisha and wondered why he was with her. Then he started thinking that he needed to get those divorce papers signed and return them to his lawyer. He planned to do it during his lunchtime that day. Nisha stirred, still asleep, and Roman continued to lay there thinking about how he ended up where he is. Son of a Covet, Part 14. Do I know her? That dream, what could it mean? And who was that woman on the census? Why is she listed as my grandfather's wife? That isn't my grandma's name. Roman finally got up and decided to shower, get dressed, and head to work. Still in his head, he began to hear Pastor Stiles' words again. Take your mind off of this obsession to be in a relationship. Do some self-reflection. Roman drove along and asked himself, "Do I even love her? This is crazy. It's all about sex. I can't think of any other good reason that I hooked up with her. She can't cook." And a horn from the other car behind him honked, snapping Roman out of his trance at the light. He quickly pulled off, feeling bewildered about himself, irritated that he couldn't think of any good reason he was with Nisha. She looks good. She has a job. I wonder if she has her driver's license. Ethel didn't tell me she was driving on a suspended license until the day after we were married. Can't believe I didn't know that. I really don't know much about Nisha, and here we are walking around saying we're engaged. Son of a Covet, Part 15, Mission Accomplished. Roman didn't even care if people saw him talking to himself at this point as he pulled into the parking lot at his job. He figured that folks would think he was talking on his cell phone anyway and chuckled at that thought. Lunchtime, Roman went to see his lawyer as he had planned, with all the paperwork signed and the balance of the fee so that the divorce process can move forward. He walked out of the lawyer's office smiling, feeling a sense of relief that closure was near. He decided to take a stroll through the adjacent park and get a hot dog from the truck that is always parked on the other side. While in line, he felt a tap on his shoulder. Son of a Covet, Part 16, Shocking Revelation. "Hey, Brother Roman, how you doing?" "Bernard, how you doing, man?" "I'm good. What you doing out here? I thought you worked across town." "Oh, I had some business to take care of." "How you like being a deacon?" It's good. So, Roman, it's funny I run into you today. We was just talking about you last night." "Oh man, y'all ain't got nothing better to do than be all up in my business?" "No man, come on. You the one that got your business out there. What could you possibly expect by having a wife and a girlfriend all up in the same church?" "But you know I haven't been with my wife for a long time now. I just finished filing the divorce papers. So you can run back and tell that." "I'm talking to you as a friend, man. I can understand that you and Ethel are finished, but both you and Nisha still married and walking around talking about being engaged." "Hold up. What'd you just say?" "What do you mean, me and Nisha both married?" "Yeah, bruh. I had a feeling you didn't know. Not many folks do, because she left him years ago and ain't never been the church-going type. I know because her husband is my wife's cousin. I have never said anything to her or anyone else about it. She doesn't know that he and my wife are related or know each other." Son of a Covet, Part 17, Voice in His Head. Stunned, Roman stepped out of line before ordering his hot dog and stood there looking at Deacon Bernard with his mouth open. Roman went back to work and tried to focus on his tasks, but struggled with the anger that has swelled up in his spirit. She got a real damn nerve pushing me to get divorced. I can't believe she lied to me like that. I need to drop kick her ass to the curb, he mumbled. He grabbed his forehead with both hands and it weighed his elbows down onto the desk. The roller coaster ride of emotions of the day had given him a headache. What am I doing? What am I doing? He raised his head to look at the clock and saw that it was almost time to leave. So he decided to leave a few minutes early, knowing it wouldn't be a problem, and he wasn't able to focus on his work anyway. He began putting his work away and thought about calling Nisha, but decided not to. Pastor Styles' voice crept into his head. You need a period to regroup, to settle down with yourself. Start focusing on God and pray. Get involved in some ministries and take your mind off of this obsession to be in a relationship. Do some self-reflection. Son of a Covet, Part 18, Self-Reflection. Roman sat down in his car and put the key in the ignition, but didn't turn it on. He kept hearing those words, do some self-reflection. Putting his head back, he tried to remember the last time he was not in a relationship. He couldn't remember being alone since high school, always having a girlfriend, and if she wasn't working out, he'd have another one waiting in the wings. What is it? Am I afraid to be by myself? I'm not a sex addict, but seems I just need to know that I can get it when I want it. Need a woman at my disposal. Wow. That sounds so cold. Not just a woman, but a woman who is mine. But how has this attitude served me? What have I gained? It's not fair to them either. Roman surprised himself by saying that, as if he had never even considered the feelings of his women before that way. And that dream, Roman said to himself as he turned the car on. He drove out of the parking lot with a destination in mind, his father's house. He's going to explain this to me. I want to know who that woman is on Grandpa's census record, he said as he sped onto the highway. Son of a Covet, Part 19, Grandpa's Secret. Hello, son. This is a surprise. What brings you over this way today? Hi, Dad. I've been doing some thinking. Uh-oh, that sounds dangerous, his father laughed. All right, all jokes aside, I've really been thinking about what you said and my meeting with Pastor Styles. Roman walked into the living room and sat down. You want something to drink, son? I just made myself some tea. No thanks, and he got up to follow his father into the kitchen. Dad, I have done some research on our family. Who is Sally Mae? Who? Sally Mae? I don't remember no Sally Mae. She's listed on the census record as Grandpa's wife. It shows that Grandpa was around 19 years old. No, that can't be right. I believe it is right. You wouldn't know because he didn't marry Grandma until 10 years later. I wonder what happened to his first wife that it seems none of us know about. Just hold on now, son. Those old census records. Dad, just think about it. It is very possible that you just don't know about this. I wish Uncle Greg was still alive. I bet he might have known since he was older than you. Doesn't show that they had any children. Son of a Covet, Part 20, Digging Up Old Bones. Roman's father poured the hot water from the kettle over the tea bag in his cup and took in the steamy aroma of the herbs, and then sat down and let out a sigh.
Son, maybe it is true, but why you going on about it? It's old news. There ain't no good reason to go on digging up old bones.
That's what you older folks are used to. But now folks want to know more about their roots. Aren't you even curious about having maybe another line of relatives out there?
No, not really,
his father said as he sipped his tea. Roman shook his head and went on talking about it. That dream I had was crazy. I'm thinking that as far back as our slave roots, the men in our family have not regarded women right. Selfish, maybe. Maybe we were forced to be selfish that way. I don't know. But even you, Dad, you had a wife before Mom, and you probably would have never told her if she hadn't heard about it from your hometown cousin when he visited us. I bet you were going to take that bit of news to your grave. Son of a Covet, Part 21, Divine Intervention.
Now, son, I have apologized about that over and over again. To this very day, I don't know what happened to her. She left me. I had no idea what happened to her.
So you just gonna act like it never happened? Move away and get married to someone else?
They say after 7 years, a person is considered dead.
You're supposed to get that legalized, though. But that's beside the point. Grandpa did the same thing. That's what gets me. And without even knowing all this, I was about to do the same thing. Roman stood up and paced the floor as his father watched him. And I think that dream was an omen, a sign. It's time for someone to break this chain, this ugly legacy. Dad, I'm not trying to make you feel bad, but I'm realizing that we have a common thread in our lineage and it needs to stop. I think you know that because you called me and even said it. Roman's father looked at him but said nothing as Roman sat back down. They continued to talk a little more, and Roman assured his father that he meant no disrespect and was not trying to make him feel bad. Well, I know what I need to do, and I believe it was divine intervention that has provided me the opportunity to do it. Son of a Covet, Part 22, Gearing Up. Roman drove home feeling good about his visit with his father and the conclusion he had come to. But once he parked his car at Nisha's house, his mood immediately changed. He became defensive and geared up for a fight because he planned to tell her that he wants to break up with her. He felt fortunate to have found out about her being married because it was a perfect excuse for him to use to get out of the relationship. Still, the whole idea of what he was about to do made him feel tense, and he sat in the car for a few minutes to get his words together. When he entered the house, Nisha was sitting in the living room watching TV. Roman looked around the kitchen and saw no evidence of anything cooking.
You ate dinner already?
I had a sandwich. We're out of bread, though. Why don't you run to the store and stop by Burger King? I have a couple coupons.
Never mind. I'm not hungry. We need to talk.
Roman walked into the living room and sat down. Silence. Nisha was sitting there looking at him intently, waiting to hear what he wanted to say, yet he said nothing. Son of a Covet, Part 23, Living Lies. What is it you want to talk about, Roman? I'm moving out. I've thought long and hard about our relationship, and it's not right. We should have never gotten together the way we did. What? What are you talking about, Roman? What did I do to make you want to leave me? She got up and went over to the couch where he was sitting and tried to sit in his lap, but he got up. Our relationship is wrong, and you know it, Nisha. I'm still getting divorced, but what about you? She looked stunned. Who told you? Doesn't matter. You have a lot of nerve, though, I'll give you that. Pushing me to get a divorce while you're still married. Now that's a lot of nerve, he said as he walked into the bedroom to start packing his clothes. Roman, wait. I was gonna tell you. I plan to get a divorce too. I haven't seen him in so long. I needed money to get the divorce started. I figured once you got yours, you can help me get mine. Son of a Covet, Part 24, Cleaning House. You must be crazy. I don't want to hear no more about it. You're still married and separated for more than 8 years, and you're waiting for me to get a divorce? You should have been done that long before I met you. I've made my mind up. I need some time on my own, and I ain't helping you get no divorce. I'm out of here. But what about you and Ethel? I'm getting my divorce. I'm cleaning house. I'm done. You know it's not right, Nisha. Our relationship was built on a foundation of sex, and I'm finally forcing myself to think higher than that. We have nothing in common, really. Have you ever thought about that? You're a lot like Ethel, really, and that's clearly a problem. A problem with me. Son of a Covet, Part 25, Planning Forward. Roman left and then realized that he didn't want to go to his home where Ethel was either. He went back to his father's house and asked if he could sleep on his couch for that night while he figured out what his next step would be. The next day, he got up and went to work, and after work, headed to his house where his wife and her son still lived. I guess I'll make my office my bedroom for the time being. I think I'll join the choir or volunteer at the church so I don't have to be home so much. Yeah, that's a good idea. God, please forgive me. I'm going to fall on my knees when I get home and pray for wisdom and strength. I will break this curse. I'm not going to be like the men in my past family line. I'm going to do better and be a better example going forward. Son of a Covet, Part 26, New Vision. Roman parked and didn't notice that Ethel's car wasn't there. He felt empowered after praying while driving and decided to let her know that he's moving back in and they can discuss how the divorce should work. He walked in and saw no one, but it was strange, and it didn't hit him as to why at first. Then, as if by slow motion, his vision began to recognize an empty home. There was nothing on the counters in the kitchen. He opened the refrigerator and saw very little food in there. He went to the living room and saw there was no TV, the recliner couch gone. Pictures were missing from the wall. He ran to the bedroom and found that pictures were missing, but the furniture was still there. He opened her dresser drawer and it was empty. He snatched the closet door open and her clothes were gone. He ran to her son's room. It was empty. Stunned, he went into the kitchen and sat down at the table shocked. Then he saw the note. "Roman, I'll call to give you an address where you can send the divorce papers. I will sign them. I've decided it's time to move on. Have a nice life because I intend to." Son of a Covet, Part 27, Prayer for the Challenge. Roman went into the living room and sat in the one chair that was left behind, put his head back, and closed his eyes. Then he remembered that he planned to get on his knees, so he did. Dear Lord, I thank you and I praise you for leading me through this week in ways that are mysterious and miraculous. I thank you, Lord, for allowing me to hear the wisdom of Pastor Stiles and my father, and that I heard what they said and understood finally how important it is to learn about myself, my goals, my desires. Help me, Lord, to be accountable and give me peace and patience as I make the effort to reflect on my past in order to have a better future. I thank you and I praise you, Lord. In Jesus' name, amen. Roman got up and looked around his empty home and started imagining for the first time that living by himself might not be a bad thing at all. He sat down and really felt the weight of Pastor Stiles' words on him in his quiet home. It was a new feeling and experience, and he decided he is ready for the challenge.